Cinsere and Classic might finally be getting some justice. They were not served in life by anybody, beginning with their biological mother, Ryan Dean, who drank alcohol while they were in utero. She's admitted to this, and it's on an audio recording, and it's been transcribed in several places. You can find it if you wish. And this may have played a part in why she lost her children to the state. And it's stated in the arrest affidavit, or the information that's come out to do with Jacqueline and Trezell West's arrest, that Oren, the older boy, 4-year-old Classic, that he had extra vulnerabilities. Now, as you know, I did think that Orson, or Cinsere, he exhibited the facial features of a child born with FASD. This area here, broader, the smaller eyes, the flattened piece across here with the very thin upper lip. And I thought perhaps that, there's definitely behavioural problems that Jacqueline and Trezell were just not capable or desiring to address. And Trezell's use of the word rambunctious kind of cemented that idea in my mind. But, you know, who knows? So, did Oren have a learning disability or some sort of cognitive function impairment, behavioural issue, a physical disability? I'm not sure what's meant by this vulnerability. All these children were vulnerable. They are vulnerable just by proxy of being in the welfare system, let alone having the pure bad luck of being thrown to wolves like the Greater West family, because I believe that entire network needs to be thoroughly investigated. Wanda West may not be in prison right now for her lying, saying that she saw the children in November 2020, the month before they disappeared, were reported missing, I should say. Maybe she's the one that's giving up some information, singing like a terrified little canary after her decades of abusing children in the system for her own benefit. Is going to come to a grinding halt, hopefully behind bars, where I think she belongs. I think she's scum, just like her son and his wife. All my opinion, of course, but I feel like Jacqueline and Trezell's behaviour is learned behaviour. They were deadbeats who used children for money, and they didn't want to give them any sort of home life. They were assets or liabilities as well, in a kind of twisted way, right? So I want to know more about Wanda. I want to know if she's the one that is talking. I want to know when she's going to get charges of obstruction or being an accomplice before or after the fact, whatever the charges could be. There are issues with Jamal, because we know that when people want certain resources, they set themselves up to get their little grubby hands on them, and Jamal is in the childcare industry, so that's suspicious to me, considering everything else that is flying around to do with this diabolical family. So I want to know more about Wanda and the West family, and maybe Jacqueline's family as well, because I believe her mother is involved. I'm not sure, because I don't know if people are talking about Cherie, not her father, the Cherie that is not Jacqueline's mother, when they talk about Jacqueline's mother being involved in CPS. But I wouldn't be surprised. I think people go into these jobs and then they learn that they can make a lot of money, and these deadbeats weren't doing anything else. They committed a fraud to move into the Cal City home they purchased by borrowing $5,000 to look like savings, and I think it was the realtor that actually helped them with that, and they started making a move toward Cal City well before September. So I don't know why this doesn't show premeditation. I guess the police just have to go with what they think they can get a conviction for, and this went through the grand jury process, so a lot of people processing a lot of information came to the conclusion that they should be charged. This is the process that the Ramseys went through, and the grand jury chose to indict. It just didn't happen. They just didn't get the arrest. So I'm rushing because I really have to go. And now, I feel like I've got so much to say. I can't just fling off, and so it starts getting a little bit jumbled. There's the couple, Virginia being the mother with the stepfather, who are wondering where her children are. They could be the 8 and 10-year-old who were in the care of Jacqueline and Trezell at the time. They would have been 3 and 5 when she lost custody, and around 6 or 8 maybe at the time of Classic and Cinsere being reported missing. Were they anything to do with the charges? For example, someone else being involved in the cruelty. I mean, is this another family member or person involved with the family, or is it one of the children? Isn't it gross to think? But there are a lot of cases where individual children or just a couple of children are singled out for particularly diabolical, disgusting treatment in a family. So whilst there might be a full fridge, one particular child might be starved while the others are fed, that sort of thing. The others might be sent to school, one child locked in a cupboard or locked in a room, left filthy with excrement, beaten, etc. What an environment, what a psychological cyclone of sickness. And the children shouldn't be blamed. And when you see people, if you see people saying, oh, they induce these children, these other children murdered Oren and Orson, you need to speak up against that. That is a foul thing to say. Casting blame on 2 children that are, or on children or one child that are alive, they've got a life to try and live after this. It is not their fault, and you don't know that this is fact. And if that's your way of interpreting this data straight off the bat, then everything else that you have interpreted must be brought into question. Stop being irresponsible, stop being cruel, even though you might not mean it, and you're actually being sensationalist, and just have a little bit more consideration, please. So, we've got so much to talk about. I actually need an hour, don't I? I'll have to go. I'll speak to you later. But, let's think about the move when that was being orchestrated and what that might mean in relation to the charges and the mention only specifically of September. Because, I've always thought that the children might have been, Oren and Orson, Classic and Cinsere, might have been murdered or rehomed well before December 2020. Police, for the sake of their arrest, this can change by the time it gets to court, are stating it was within the month of September 2020. But indeed, just as I believed, the police believed too that Oren and Orson, Classic and Cinsere, never made it to Cal City. And I believe they're going to prove that throughout the trial, if it goes to trial. So I want to think about that. I want to think about Wanda West and the families, and the generational systemic abuse of children and the system for their own sick, personal, selfish, disgusting gain. These people are scum, just in my opinion. I want to think about, Jamal and the business he's running, included in that, and his status in the community, etc. I want to think about little Oren and Orson West and the lack of breaks that they've had ever since their inception. These little children, they do have two different fathers. They were taken from the mother, and I know that the placement is so wrong, and the use and abuse of these children is so wrong and inexcusable and unconscionable. You know, Ryan Dean is not a saint. It was interesting to learn through Virginia, the mother of the two foster children, I think that's her name, Virginia or something like that, sorry if I've got that wrong, that if you're a ward of the state, it means you're a lot more likely, if you've been a ward of the state growing up, that you're a lot more likely to have your children taken from you as you have them. You seem to have a lot less freedoms there. I don't know if this is really true, if this is just her experience, and so it's her assumption, I'm not sure. But yeah, the system is indeed, of course, broken. It's screwed up in so many places. But Ryan Dean is not a saint, and she's not Mother of the Year. We need to accept this. She didn't do right by these children. I mean, if she had, I don't know, the ball wouldn't have gotten rolling, so to speak. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with Jacqueline and Trezell at present time. They're the ones that are charged, and everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I believe other charges are coming down the pike for other people. Don't blame the other children. They have been in a terrible environment where there is no way that they could flourish and grow normally, and if they do, that just shows enormous resilience and strength of character of the individual child. But, you know, I hope that they get a chance to actually heal from all the damage. They're going to carry this for the rest of their lives. They shouldn't have guilt laid upon them. We don't know what atrocities that they've lived with. And indeed the fear that if they didn't commit certain things, possibly, that they would become the victims. They're still victims anyway, but maybe they were just trying to avoid physical abuse, other sort of neglect, and imagine the fear they lived with on a daily basis. Would they have tried to escape or communicate with someone at one point? It depends on level of that, you know, lock-in or Stockholm syndrome too, I guess, in the fear. But would they have tried, you know, they were so isolated, they didn't have anyone else in their lives. And this is happening through COVID times, but it's also they were so isolated that they couldn't trust anyone. There was no one that they were able to talk to. Who did they have? The Wests, right? So perhaps they are talking, perhaps it's Wanda West, perhaps it's someone else. Anyway, I'm keen to learn as things come to light, you know. More information. Speak to you later.